Let us pray. From our forests and parklands to our prairies and mountains comes the call of our land. From our farmsteads, towns, and cities comes the call of our people, that as legislators of this province we act with responsibility and sensitivity. Lord, grant us the wisdom to meet such challenges. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
The Honorable the Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Assembly, I am pleased to introduce to you His Excellency Pedro Alves Machado, the Ambassador of Portugal. His Excellency was recently appointed to the position as Ambassador from Portugal to Canada. He is making his first official visit to our province. He's led a distinguished diplomatic career which has included postings in Italy, England, Saudi Arabia, the United States, and most recently as the Portuguese Consul General in Paris, France. Alberta's relations with Portugal are strengthened considerably by the large and active Portuguese community in our province. While here, the ambassador will be briefed by officials of our province's resources and capabilities, and he will have an opportunity to partake in an agricultural tour. He is accompanied by Mr. Miguel de Calajeros Veloso, Consul in Vancouver, and by Mr. Luis Freire, the Honorary Consul recently appointed to that position here in Edmonton. I would ask that the ambassador and his party rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The Honourable Member for West Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to serve notice that after question period, I would like to propose the following motion under Standing Order 40. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta congratulate the Edson Kinsmen and the community of Edson as the slow pitch capital of Canada by hosting this weekend 230 slow pitch teams from across the Northwest Territories and Western Canada.
Hear, hear.
Introduction of bills.
The Honourable the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Honourable Attorney General, I request leave to introduce a bill being the Conflicts of Interest Act.
The Honourable Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications has moved first reading of Bill number 40, Conflicts of Interest Act. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill 40, Conflicts of Interest Act, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Stewart on behalf of Honourable Mr. Rostad, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to table 4 copies of the answer to motion for return 191.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Millwoods, or White Mud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to table 4 copies to the House information documentation pertaining to the response given by the Minister of Lotteries, which clearly demonstrate our information was in fact correct, and the repeated attempts we have sent to his office by written form to obtain that information, and a news clipping where he states very clearly it was going to be provided to us constituency by constituency, and it never was.
Hear, hear. Oh, sorry, the Honourable Member for Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to table 4 copies of the 1990 annual report of the Advisory Committee on Heavy Oil and Oil Sands Development.
Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
The honourable member for Stony Plain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I'm very honored to introduce 9 students and 2 teachers from Memorial Composite High School in Stony Plain. The reason I'm honored is that they are the 1991 Canadian National Champions of the Canadian Academic Decathlon recently held in Okotoks. They had the privilege of taking pictures with myself and the minister a little earlier, and the minister had the opportunity to chat with them. They are Jacqueline Suen, Susan Belsey, Gavin Brooks, Susan Brooksford, Lloyd Johnson, Gary Keller, Andrew Breckenridge, Joel Lewin, Sion Thomas. They are accompanied by their teacher coaches, Mrs. Eileen Monroe and Mr. Charles Wegner. I'd ask them to rise in the members' gallery and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Federal and Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted and for 2 days in a row to have had the opportunity of introducing Medicine Hatters to this Assembly is quite remarkable in view of the distance from Edmonton, but I'm pleased today to introduce a school group from Webster Niblock School, one of the outstanding schools in Medicine Hat. I may say, Mr. Speaker, that all of my children, my 3 daughters, went through that school, grades 1 to 6. It is an outstanding school in our community. There are 28 members in the party, and their teacher, Jim Grossman, is accompanying the group, as well as parents, Jackie Mackmer, Evelyn Mercer, Margaret Lintott, Elsie Rombo, and Jim Fair. And I would ask that the students and their escorts rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm privileged today to introduce Stan and Jean Stadnick, who are residents of Gold Bar. The Stadnicks are not only esteemed members of our community, Mr. Speaker, they're also the proud grandparents of one of our excellent pages, Micah Arlett, who is to your right, Mr. Speaker. The Stadnicks are seated in the members' gallery. I'd ask that they rise and be welcomed by the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 24 students from Sefton Elementary School, located in Edmonton Beverly. They're accompanied by their teachers, Ms. Gilbreth and Ms. Lodenklaus. They're seated in the public gallery. I'd ask them to rise and be welcomed by the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Lacombe.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleague from Clover Bar, it's a pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 28 students from the Holy Redeemer School. They're accompanied by teacher Laurie Shodovich. They're seated in the public gallery, and I ask the Assembly to extend them the traditional welcome. Hopefully, Mr. Speaker, they're up there. I can't see if they are, but I ask them to rise if they are.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly on behalf of the member from Edmonton Highlands, 16 students from the St. Leo School, accompanied by their teacher, Ms. Linda Lazert, and 4 parents, Mr. Michael Purcell, Mrs. E. Alexandra, Miss Wendy Ricart, and Miss Susan Venn. I would ask them to rise and receive the usual warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to introduce to you and through you to other members of the Assembly the most distinguished guest, Stephen Bennett, the former chairman of the Development Appeal Board. He's in the public gallery. If he would stand and receive the warm welcome of this House.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
The Honourable Member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year there was a great deal of anger and frustration and pain experienced by Aboriginal people across this nation because of unresolved issues relating to Aboriginal self-government. I think we're all united in our desire to avoid another long, hot summer of conflict, and I'd just like to ask the Premier exactly what progress his government is making with respect to recognizing the inherent right for Aboriginal self-government.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is familiar with the moves of this government to provide self-government for the Métis people who are our responsibility, and that we signed the agreements last year. The Métis people felt it was historic that they were for the first time able to have land, own land, to be able to participate fully in the opportunities that exist in this wonderful province of ours, and that they are looking forward to building their communities and building companies and businesses and in their self-government. As far as the Indian people, that's the responsibility of the federal government, although perhaps they can in fact look at the model that we've established with Métis people and would be able to work towards something along those lines, and I think it would be quite successful opportunity presents itself there. One of the things that the honourable member mentions is Aboriginal self-government. Now, I'm not sure that the honourable member has ever tried to define that term, and we'd be interested, I'm sure, in any debates within this legislature that we might try and define what that means.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the mood in the country is quite clear. Canadians want these long-standing issues relating to Aboriginal self-government resolved. And progress is being made with some provincial governments. Indeed, the government in the province of Ontario issued a groundbreaking and historic decision yesterday stating that very clearly Ontario recognizes that under the Constitution of Canada, the First Nations have an inherent right to self-government within the Canadian constitutional framework, and that the relationship between Ontario and First Nations must be based upon a respect for this right. And I would just like to ask the Premier, given that he has some record that he can be justifiably proud of in the past, will he now take the next step, follow the lead of Ontario, and announce the same thing in the province of Alberta?
Positive. Well, Mr. Speaker, I gather Ontario's talking about it. We've done it. That's right. I mean, talk about leadership. Let's see Ontario follow the Alberta moves. I mean, we have actually done it. They're talking about it and hardly taking a leadership position. Right. I also say to the honourable member, Ontario did not define self-government. And that is what the discussion has to involve. I should also caution him that as part of constitutional matters, we have a constitutional select committee going across Alberta, and Aboriginal matters should and will be raised. I understand they are being raised, so should hardly be now taking a firm position while we are having the people of Alberta give us grassroots input to the whole constitutional area.
Mr. Speaker, this government has not recognized the principle of the inherent right for Aboriginal self-government, and that's one of the problems. And rather than trying to pull himself up by the bootstraps, which will never get this off the ground, will the Premier not recognize that an important recognition of principles is the important first step towards negotiating individual settlements with Aboriginal people in the province of Alberta, because each situation is frankly quite different.
Hear, hear. Well, Mr. Speaker, do I understand the honourable member that he wants the government to ignore the input that's coming from the people of Alberta on these constitutional matters? Is that, if that's their position, fine, as long as we know it. Because we are spending a lot of time and we are getting input from the people of Alberta. And I just want to finally say to the honourable member, he is here tilting at windmills here when you can see that the government of Alberta is the only government in Canada who has moved with Aboriginal people that are responsible that we're responsible for and provided self-government.
Right. That's right on. Second main question.
I'd like to designate the second question to the member for Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for over 20 years, this government has refused to discuss the Teachers' Retirement Fund with the Alberta Teachers Association. Recently, through the efforts of the Minister of Education, apparently a memorandum of agreement was reached between the Government of Alberta and the Alberta Teachers Association, a precedent-setting agreement which would have resolved all outstanding issues. To the Provincial Treasurer, Mr. Speaker, since the agreement was arrived at in good faith, and further, since the teachers were accepting obligations that were acceptable to both them and the Minister of Education, on what basis did the Treasurer see fit to undercut his own colleague and veto this agreement?
Well, Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. We have been engaging in very long and strong deliberations and discussions with the Alberta Teachers Association. And I've got to thank the Teachers Association and the teachers of this province for taking a very constructive and positive approach to a problem that they recognize, that we have recognized for a long time. And we, Mr. Speaker, are still continuing those discussions with the teachers, and I look forward to the proper resolution of this problem within the next number of months.
Yeah, it stands note.
Mr. Speaker, recently an emergency resolutions meeting was cancelled because they hadn't come to an agreement, or the agreement was vetoed rather. Mr. Speaker, the cost of living allowance adjustments and unfunded liability costs are two areas that were compounded by the negligence of this government over the years. And those are problems that the teachers were willing to be flexible on. Mr. Speaker, if you don't pay your visa bill this year, it can bankrupt you next year. Again, to the Provincial Treasurer. The Provincial Treasurer is going to extraordinary lengths to prop up the fiction that he has a balanced budget this year. Is the Provincial Treasurer intentionally avoiding the issue of unfunded liability at this time so that costs of resolving these problems can be again defrayed for another budget year, from this budget year to next?
Mr. Speaker, this government takes its responsibilities and its financial responsibilities very seriously. But let's make it very clear to the honourable member. He knows full well that this government has lived up to the spirit and the letter of the agreement that the Teachers Association and that the government struck in 1956. We have lived up fully to the letter and the spirit of that agreement. Mr. Speaker, quite properly, the teachers have joined us in recognizing that there is a problem with the long-term viability and security of the Teachers' Retirement Fund. There is a problem, we've both acknowledged it, and we're both finding the solution to solve that problem.
Oh, that's right.
Mr. Speaker, I repeat again, the ATA, the Alberta Teachers Association, and Alberta Education had a memorandum of agreement in order to straighten out these problems. An agreement which apparently was undercut by the Provincial Treasurer. Now I'll try and give him a question that he can answer. We are now 6 months away from having to have legislation changes in place so the TRF, Teachers' Retirement Fund, and other public pension plans can continue to be registered under federal legislation. When, I repeat, when is the Provincial Treasurer going to discharge his responsibility, as he promised in this legislature, so that these pension changes can be implemented in order to ensure that all public service plans are continued to be registered?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'm somewhat surprised to see that the ATA has handled negotiations in this fashion. I don't really think that it's appropriate for this member to come in between the negotiations that are ongoing between the Minister of Education and the ATA, and I'm sure that this member, who knows very little about anything, has got this one absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong, Mr. Speaker. Let me advise the members of the Legislative Assembly and all members who are now either participating in a pension plan or receiving pension benefits from the plan that, as I have said before, this government recognizes the importance attached to this part of their program with respect to securing their future on retirement. And I have said before that will be moving towards a resolution of this problem, and in fact that is the case. As recently as last week, Mr. Speaker, I met with the board of all 5 plans of the province of Alberta administration, and in doing so we came to agreement on 2 parts, Mr. Speaker. First of all, we came to agreement that we will proceed through the fall of this year to deal with the big problem that faces these plans and to ensure that those people who receive benefits under the plan will be able to have them when they go to retirement. That is to ensure that the fund is well established and well funded. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, we'll have a series of other recommendations which we'll discuss with the boards and the members and have an opportunity for their input into how this plan and these changes and these suggestions for improvement will flow. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, I had a discussion with the various boards on the matter of the imperatives imposed by federal regulations and legislation on us as a government and on our plans, wherein certain offside benefits now being provided to members have to be considered and have to be dealt with, because under the federal legislation they will in fact be not allowable for tax purposes and the benefits will be offside. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, I can advise the House that I have agreement among all 5 provincial plans, and I believe the Minister of Education will confirm that the ATA and he will be able to reach an agreement to allow amending legislation to proceed this spring, which will correct the question of the offside of federal legislation. And as a result, Mr. Speaker, sometime next week I'll be introducing legislation to do just that. But it was with a spirit of cooperation and consultation that we worked, Mr. Speaker, and I consider the information exchange of ideas among the boards as important and privileged to some extent. And I think it's unfortunate that the member from Stony Plain would abuse the negotiating process as he has done in this House today.
The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, 30,000 plus senior citizens have now registered their unhappiness by signing petitions and asking the government to roll back the drastic cutbacks on seniors. Speaker, today I received some information from one of the ostomy suppliers in the city of Edmonton that deals with seniors. I'm told that the average ostomy senior needs to pay out about $3,600 a year for ostomy supplies, but because of these cutbacks and the amount given by the government is reduced, that senior will have to pay an additional sum, and the total sum paid by that senior will go up to about $2,100 a year. Now, if you're a millionaire, it's easy. But if you're living on a meager Canada pension plan, it's very, very difficult. Mr. Speaker, my first question to the minister responsible for seniors is this. Given that 16,000 seniors have asked the minister to roll back, the government to roll back these regressive cutbacks on them, does the minister agree to do that? Will he agree to do that?
Let me fill in just a little bit of the background, Mr. Speaker. It's recognized that we're all living longer and healthier and far more active than we ever did before. There's no question that our seniors are more involved than they ever have been in active daily living. In fact, I met with a group the other day, and at the table there was 12 of us, and 11 of those people were over 92, and I think they all looked healthier than I did. One of the people at a meeting that I was at 3 weeks ago was 104, and he looked very healthy. There's no question that we're in changing times, that our programs by necessity are going to have to change to meet those increasing demands. Our fastest growing segment of the population of Alberta is those over 75. Traditionally, those who have been thought of as needing more intensive assistance in one way or another. There are going to be changes to our programs. There must be changes because in order to meet the increasing demands and the changing demands. Mr. Speaker, we have said that perhaps we could have consulted more with our seniors, and we have committed ourselves to do that, and we are going to. We've already taken steps to correct that. But I think that I would rather have the Minister of Health answer specific questions as to ostomy supplies because she is more familiar than I am with these.
Mr. Speaker, the question was very simple. 16,000 people that are completely unrelated to petitions that were signed or started by the NDP party or the Liberal Party have asked for rollbacks in these drastic cuts to seniors. My question is this: will you agree to the request of those 16,000 that signed it independently? Will you agree to the request to roll back those cutbacks?
Well, I don't know how many times we're going to have to deal with the same question over and over again, but let's deal in some specifics, Mr. Speaker. Let me just outline some of the programs that we have in place and ask the member if he'd like to roll some of these back. We spend over $50 million on the Alberta Assured Income Program in this province, $36 million on social allowance, and I'm only talking about seniors here, Mr. Speaker. $9.5 million go to widows' pension program, $163 million towards our Alberta health care insurance premiums, and another $129 million towards the Blue Cross premiums on behalf of seniors. We have $38 million for extended health benefits, $44 million towards our aids to daily living, $52 million towards long-term care, $40 million, $408 million, to long-term care centers, $50 million to the Senior Citizens Renter Assistance Program. I could go on. $71 million to the Property Tax Reduction Program for seniors, $35 million for the Seniors Independent Living Program. Mr. Speaker, $40 million for housing for senior citizens' lodges. $7 million for FCSS goes directly to seniors. Where would the minister like me to, or where would the honourable member like me to start cutting back on those programs?
Mr. Speaker, I asked a simple question twice, and there is no answer being given by the minister.
That's right.
And that's the problem that you're having with the seniors. Mr. Speaker, my question is this: given that the minister refuses to do the cutbacks, given that the government won't cut back, why do you go through the charade of meeting with seniors at the end of this month, giving them the false hope that they're going to get cutbacks? Why do you do that? Why do you fool them?
There are no cutbacks.
You know, it's an old adage, Mr. Speaker, that the reason history repeats itself is because people don't listen. I guess the same rule would apply in this House. We have covered this topic as thoroughly as we could, Mr. Speaker, and I think that the honourable member has had his answer many, many times. I think we will continue to maintain the best program coverage of anywhere in Canada for the seniors of Alberta. We're committed to do that, and we intend to continue with that program. And we have already started the process of consulting with the senior citizens, and that is ongoing and is taking place. So I don't know what more I can tell this member that will help him understand the situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Pincher Creek, Crow's Nest.
Mr. Speaker, the Old Man Dam is now full and water is running over its spillway. Yesterday in Lethbridge, the federal panel's environmental review panel's hearings into the safety of the dam concluded. My question is to the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services. Would the Minister advise the Assembly as to any information he has about the conclusions of the federal panel's experts regarding the safety of the Old Man Dam?
Good question. Mr. Speaker, I would anticipate that within the next several weeks that a report will be finalized by the ERP panel as a result of the safety meetings in Lethbridge in the last 2 days. But the observers that we've had observing the hearings have provided me with information, Mr. Speaker, that the presentations made by the technical advisors to the Environment Assessment Review Panel have made statements that the Old Man River Dam is 1, well designed, and 2, safe.
A supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services. Would the Minister advise the Assembly as to the government's position regarding recommendations which the federal panel may make relating to the safety of the dam?
Mr. Speaker, to repeat, the position of the government would be that we would want to receive a report from this particular panel, and any conclusions that might be provided or recommendations for improvements would be very seriously reviewed by the government. In fact, would be acted on, Mr. Speaker. I might point out that there was a presentation made by the Pagan Nation in the last 2 days that raised some questions and need for further consultations with respect to the emergency preparedness plan. All members will recall that in the province of Alberta, all municipalities in this province through Alberta Public Safety Services have designed a local emergency preparedness plan. And there were a few questions raised by the Pagan Nation, Mr. Speaker, and we want to ensure that they are very much up to date with all of the information. In fact, are a participant with the emergency preparedness plan, so not even waiting for the ERP panel to provide us with a report. We've arranged to have the discussions beginning on Monday with the Pagan Nation to make sure that any questions they would have with respect to the emergency preparedness plan would be answered, and they would be fully aware of all the steps that would be taken in the event, the very remote event, to repeat, the very remote event of any concerns with respect to safety in the Oldman River Dam.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government doesn't like to use the R word, but Mr. Speaker, there's 116,000 unemployed Albertans that are convinced we're in a recessionary trend. Instead of this government doing something proactive to create employment programs, the government has sat back and done absolutely nothing. That's right. Mr. Speaker, would you believe that last month another 10,000 Albertans joined the unemployment ranks? So Provincial Treasurer says that I should tell the truth. Well, Mr. Speaker, I am telling the truth. And if you want to be so callous, maybe you should join the unemployment lines too. Next election. But I would ask the Minister of Career Development and Employment, how can the minister justify this government's do-nothing attitude when the unemployment rate has gone up by almost 30,000 Albertans by this period last year?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we heard somebody saying they're telling the truth, and while the honourable member points out certain facts, he's very remiss and fails to advise the Assembly of the more relevant and factual information. And the factual information is actually that Alberta leads all Canada on an annual basis with some over 21,000 more Albertans working than in any other province. We lead all other provinces. And in actual fact, Mr. Speaker, there's 1,248,000 Albertans working at the end of May, which for the same period last year is higher than ever before. Those are the facts. Mr. Speaker, when the honourable member refers to what is this government doing, would he rather we not approve such projects as LPAC to create the diversification and build this province? But I think it's important as well, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable member often refers to Ontario as a leading province. They're leading all right, leading at the bottom of the line. Ontario has the lowest growth rate in Canada at some 179,000 less jobs for the same period. And Mr. Speaker, the most important part of that statistic is that those job losses are what's termed in the industry structural job losses, that they are permanent in the manufacturing and process industries where Alberta is on a growth period and in a positive game.
Mr. Speaker, I'm certainly glad that the Minister of Career Development and Employment is learning how to ask questions, because after the next election, he may very well, if he's returned to this Assembly, have the opportunity to ask questions of these members when we're sitting on that side, because they're not doing anything. Mr. Speaker, last year at this time, there were 88,000 unemployed Albertans. This month, the report shows that there's 116,000 unemployed Albertans, and that, sir, is shameful. But more importantly,
for the supplemental question, this is not a debate.
Absolutely. The unemployment rate for those between the ages of 15 and 24 is well over 13%. This minister, through his department, has cut summer temporary employment programs by 50%. Surely the minister would now admit that at the very least, that decision was absolutely wrong while unemployment rate is on the rise. What is he proposing to do? What is he proposing to do for the unemployed youth of this province?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is great to bring out statistics and information, but I wish, Mr. Speaker, he would be factual. And the actual numbers, Mr. Speaker, is that the students employed in this province to date are some 88,000 versus 92,000 for the same period as last year. And yes, Mr. Speaker, that is down 4,000. But it must be remembered, Mr. Speaker, and to all honourable members of the Assembly, that for normally June, July are the growth periods or the employment periods in that sector. So if we see the trend that's taking place with some 1,248,000 Albertans working, and with the in-migration that's taking place, which is more positive, and the only province that's accepting people on this basis because they're leaving the Saskatchewan and Ontario to come to the job opportunities in Alberta. Alberta is fully integrating and will continue to lead in this employment statistic.
Now a member for Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister for Technology, Research and Telecommunications. On Wednesday, I asked the Minister a question regarding Mirius computer firm, whether or not the technology that we have invested $20 million in would be in fact remaining in Alberta. The Minister flippantly brushed it off as an unimportant question, and yet recently we've seen confirmation from the man who in fact negotiated the contract that in fact the U.S. Department of Defense does have a stake in it. So my question to the Minister today is simply this: given that the provincial government has subsidized the U.S. government, for whatever reason, to the tune of almost $20 million, will the Minister today tell us how much stake the U.S. government has in this Alberta firm?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's get one thing straight. The honourable member has again referred to $20 million of investment. This government invested $9 million, $7.5 million by way of loan, $1.5 million by preference shares. That's the extent, and I wish the honourable member would keep those figures correct. Mr. Speaker, the matter of the sale of Mirius assets is before the court. A receiver has looked into the whole matter of the technology, the rights to that technology. He's received a legal opinion with respect to that. He's prepared to recommend that to the court, and in turn a purchaser, and fortunately an Alberta company, has come along and is prepared to put up substantial amount of the money in order to invest in that technology.
Well, the Minister's conveniently overlooked VENCAP and AOC, which were also created by this government that had investments. But my supplementary question is, given that the primary, in fact the only financier for DATEC to date since its inception has in fact been the provincial government through AOC and the Treasury Board to a tune of $3.22 million, I want to know how much provincial money you're giving to this company, taxpayer money, to buy a company that taxpayers already own. How much more are you going to give them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is once again just not correct. The fact of the matter is that there is over $20 million of private sector investment in Mirius. This is not a total government operation. We had some pref shares. But again, I say that from the standpoint of the assets that were purchased, they're purchased by an Alberta company, preserving jobs in Alberta, further developing the technology here in Alberta, and I'm very pleased that there's a company of that stature that could come along and take over. They're investing a substantial amount of money. They're comfortable with the arrangement. They're comfortable with the technology and the rights to that technology. And Mr. Speaker, I think that we should, although we regret, obviously, Mirius going out of business last fall, that technology is here and will be further developed in Alberta for Albertans.
Honourable member for Calgary Bow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. Mr. Minister, in the past year I've had a number of complaints from my constituents who are residents of mobile home parks. However, when these complaints are investigated, it's found that the landlords are found to be acting within the requirements of the Act. It seems to my constituents and myself that the Mobile Home Sites Tenancy Act does not go far enough in protecting the tenants and in helping to solve these landlord-tenant difficulties. Mr. Minister, are you planning to review this legislation in the near future?
Mr. Speaker, the question is an important one, and I appreciate the honourable member's representations with regards to that. As a result of those representations and some others in the House, we will in fact be reviewing the Act with an eye on suggesting to the House changes which might be appropriate in the next time we sit.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, will you be planning a public consultation process involving the mobile home landlords and tenants as you review this legislation?
Mr. Speaker, there will certainly be consultation with those both in the industry and those who are tenants of mobile home parks, much in the same way as we have had public consultation into the Landlord and Tenant Act changes, which are now before the Assembly. I might just say that those changes are guidelines which we would use, should the Assembly choose to approve them, to look at the Mobile Home Site Tenancies Act, so there is some consistency between the two.
Honourable Member for West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the victims of the Hinton fuel poisoning left their meeting with the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety on May the 24th feeling discouraged and disappointed, especially with the Minister's high-handed attitude. Besides getting empty promises when they asked the Minister how they could have allowed trucks that had been contaminated by the poisoning to be resold, he said, and I quote, "That's not my responsibility, that's consumer and corporate affairs." I'd like to ask the Premier, when much of the problem in this case has been due to the government departments trying to avoid responsibility, and when the Minister of the Environment has recognized this and said any departmental cooperation will be improved, how can the Premier continue to allow this uncaring and non-productive attitude by the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I find it hard to believe that the honourable member is taking that position when the minister has met with him and the people several times. And just because he doesn't end up with exactly what he wants every time, he can hardly call the minister uncaring. I mean, he's sitting, he's talking to the people, he's trying to help. Now, I've already told the House that we are giving a complete assessment of this and want to be able to put in place some type of a review that will bring out all the facts and hopefully try and see if we can come to a solution to the problem. I've said that. I hope to be able to bring a response to the honourable member, and for him to start now saying that the government is doing nothing, I think just go back in Hansard and you'll find that I've already made the commitment. So what brings this on?
Mr. Speaker, Alberta environmental officials acknowledged in their meeting with the victims that they were pursuing leads to try and unravel the mystery, but they were having problems getting to the bottom of it. I'd like to ask the Attorney General, given this admission by the investigating officials, is the Attorney General now willing to call for a public inquiry into the matter so that a more comprehensive investigation will be conducted and Albertans can have a satisfactory answer to this mystery?
Mr. Speaker, twice now that I've responded to the honourable member on this instance, at the direction of the Premier, my department is coordinating an investigation with all of the other departments that are remotely and intimately involved in this incident. We are trying to establish what evidence there is, and then on the basis of that evidence determine whether there can be a criminal action taken, a civil action taken, or in fact if a public inquiry would add further evidence. That is being undertaken as quickly as possible, and I'll report back to the House on that incident.
You're the honourable member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the House of Commons Committee on the Environment has indicated, and I quote, that action should be taken now, not 3 to 5 years from now, to reduce substantially the rate of greenhouse gas emissions. Electrical generation companies in this province create electricity by burning coal, and in doing so they produce literally 1/3 of the carbon dioxide emissions produced in this province. My first question is to the Premier. Why has this government not yet imposed a price structure whereby users of electricity are required to pay more for each additional unit of electricity that they use rather than less, as is now the case?
I'm not sure I followed the honourable member, and he knows that the Public Utilities Board, Mr. Speaker, is the board which controls and regulates these prices. Now, the honourable member, I guess, is saying that all Albertans should now have their electrical utility bills jumped. Well, if that's the position of the honourable member, when the Public Utility Board is not recommending that, that's fine. We understand where the Liberal Party stands. They want everybody in Alberta to pay higher electricity bills when the Public Utilities Board is saying it isn't necessary.
Mr. Speaker, it was this government that just fired the chairman of the Public Utilities Board. I'd rather the Premier didn't try and convince Albertans that he doesn't have any influence over the Public Utilities Board. It's just completely obvious.
Here.
Mr. Premier, refrigerators in this province account for about 23% of the domestic electrical power consumption in Alberta. What is this government doing, Mr. Speaker, to develop a rebate scheme like the one currently operating in British Columbia to encourage the purchase of energy-efficient refrigerators?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member could pursue that matter with the Minister of Energy when he is in the House.
The honourable member for Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister responsible for Economic Development and Trade, who is also responsible for interprovincial trade. This past week, I had the privilege of meeting with some representatives of the red meat processing industry in our area, and they'd identified some problems as far as the federal-provincial regulatory process is concerned in the beef grading business. They seem to be having some difficulties with the grading process when they try to move their product from Alberta into either British Columbia, Saskatchewan, or the Northwest Territories. And my question basically is this government taking any action in the development to remove these barriers that seem to be developing as far as our processing is concerned?
Mr. Speaker, it was just recently that I had an opportunity to discuss this very issue with the Associate Minister of Agriculture, whereby she has indicated to me that a task force has been established, and it was established last August when the agricultural ministers, both federal and provincial, met, whereby they have put forward a recommendation to this task force that is going to come forward with recommendations with the hopeful removal of those barriers that the honourable member has suggested. One of the terms of reference that the task force is working under is a commitment to work toward common national technical standards with the provinces, whereby they will agree to adopt the higher international or federal standards within a period of 5 years.
Well, thank you. My supplemental is also to the minister. Do you have any time guidelines, or is there a time frame that's established so that the industry can develop a planning process that they can actually structure for the opportunities that this will present?
Mr. Speaker, the task force itself plus the various departments are working with farm leaders so that they can have the benefit of their advice, such as the honourable member is suggesting. In addition to that, the agricultural ministers themselves will be meeting in this province in early July, at which time they will receive an update as it relates to the activities of the task force itself, and I'm sure that the Associate Minister or the Minister of Agriculture will be more forthcoming with information after that meeting has taken place.
The honourable member for Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, my question this morning are to the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services, also responsible for seniors. The cutting of $123,000 in grants for seniors' education program is just one more way that this government is paying for its mismanagement on the backs of seniors. In Edmonton alone, some 470 seniors attend a popular 3-week program at the University of Alberta during the summer. The cutting of some $31,000 grants primarily to cover accommodation costs for rural students means that seniors from outside the city will no longer be able to take part in this very valuable program because they won't be able to afford the $430,000 or $430 for the accommodation fees. My question to the Minister are these. Given that the tuition fees for the program already expected to double or triple, Why is this government cutting off the accommodation grants, whereby cruelly and unfairly victimizing rural seniors wishing to take part in this educational program?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd rather take this question under advisement for the Minister of Advanced Education, but let me just say that in the past, seniors were able to access a 3-week educational course for $25 and 3 weeks of accommodations evaluated at something like $830 for a total of $55. My understanding that the universities have elected to keep that on in place, and I understand that it is still intact, but I would prefer that the Minister of Advanced Education get back to the honourable member.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, although seniors who attend these courses are in fact willing to pay a bit more for the program, they're prepared to make a contribution. However, a tenfold increase in the overall cost to rural students is in fact insane. Although these programs have been offered for some 15 years and have seen an enrollment increase each year, the government has apparently cut the grants without any consideration on the effect to the seniors. Will the minister agree in this assembly today to look more carefully at precisely what grants pay for and restore funding in areas where the cuts would effectively deny access for a significant percentage of seniors?
Well, as I've already said, Mr. Speaker, we have a number of programs that are in place for seniors, life enrichment opportunities, I might call them. We have family and community support services that address concerns of seniors within their own individual areas, and we've put $7 million into that program. We have Alberta Recreation and Parks, local recreation programs. We put $500,000 into those programs. There is all kinds of programs for seniors in place, such as consumer help for people who need advice on consumer issues. We have travel discounts that have been allowed by bus companies. We have a public trustee for assistance with wills and estates. On and on and on. The program list is endless, Mr. Speaker. But specifically towards this, the question that the member is raising regarding post-secondary education opportunities, I'd defer that to the minister responsible for that area. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary-McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the cost to school boards of providing service to seriously disabled students is taxing their budgets. They want as much integration as possible. However, they worry about spending education dollars for health and social services. And I know that there was a conference at Mount Royal College recently where the matter of cooperation between departments was brought up. This comes from the Special Needs Task Force which the minister set up. So to the Minister of Education, could you tell this Assembly what is the status of the progress being made as regards cooperation between the departments which serve special needs students?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is correct that the growing costs of providing special education to children who have needs, who have special ed needs, as well as their families, is growing indeed. And this province, this government, is contributing approximately $100 million this year to those costs in 140 school districts across the province. We undertook an effort about a year ago in working with the Department of Education, Department of Family and Social Services, the Department of Health, as well as the ATA, the Teachers Association, school trustees, and a variety of other agencies across this province in focusing on special education and special ed needs, in the funding of those programs, the coordination of services, and the evaluation of how well kids are doing given the programs that are there. And the Special Education Action Plan that was released in February focused on the need for more coordination amongst government departments, but also including agencies outside of government. And Mr. Speaker, we had our forum, a ministerial forum on special education in Calgary at the middle of May, and we brought together stakeholders from across the province to concentrate and focus on this important issue. And Mr. Speaker, I think there is an increasing coming together of the minds about the importance of this issue and about the need to coordinate and put our efforts together in a more coordinated fashion. We will have a report out of the conference hopefully by September, and I expect that we'll be able to make progress, far greater progress, in the next budget year.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for that response. However, in the meantime, there are school boards, specifically those in Zone 3 of ASTA, who are wondering if they could have permission to bill other departments for services that they are rendering to students. For instance, to bill the departments of health or the departments of social services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if there are medical services that are being provided by a physician to a student in a school, there is an opportunity now for that physician to be billing the Alberta Healthcare Insurance Plan. That is a fact, and that has always been there. But, Mr. Speaker, I think the services go beyond just medical services. And what we have encouraged, as recently as Tuesday, I met with school trustees in Red Deer, shared with them the experience of the likes of the Provost School Division, which makes a habit, which makes it part of the culture of education in that community to bring in the various social agencies, the recreation board, the health unit board, the hospital, and the mental health services in that community, so that they become an integral part of the education team in that school. And it's working. And the chairman of that school division, Mr. Dick Chamney, was there to share with his experience, his school division's experience with all school trustees, and I think they sat up and took note of the ability of that community to bring together the resources, not requiring more dollars, but coordinated, concentrated effort by all the stakeholders in education becoming partners in education in communities across the province.
Order, please. Before proceeding to Standing Order 40 application, could there be unanimous consent to revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. The Honourable Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you a group from the Strathcona Christian Academy. They are a group I met with earlier and a group that we'll have an opportunity to meet with when we have our cabinet tour. I believe the Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks will be speaking to this school in 10 days hence when he is there. But we have some 56 members. They're joined by Mr. Francis Poole, Mr. Doug Zook, and Mrs. Anderson. They're in the members gallery, and I'd ask if they would rise so we could extend to them a very warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
The Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's indeed my pleasure to introduce 51 students from Chester Ronning School, number 1 school in Camrose. My son attends that school. There's grade 6 class, and they're escorted by their teachers, Mr. McClarty and Mrs. Jober, and with a parent, Mr. Inchko. They're in the members and public gallery. I'd ask that they rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
For Drayton Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's indeed my pleasure today to introduce to you in this Legislative Assembly some 50-odd bright young students from the Kalmar School, and they're seated in the public gallery, and they're accompanied today, Mr. Speaker, by teachers Mrs. Hubbick and Mrs. Halwa, and by parents Mrs. Harmsworth, Mrs. Ashley, Mrs. Potter, Mrs. McLeod, and Mr. Harrish. And I would ask that they rise now and receive the warm welcome of this House.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also with us today are 16 students from the Alberta Vocational Centre in downtown Edmonton here. They're in the public gallery with their teacher, Georgia Ramos. I'd ask that they please now rise also and receive the welcome of the members here this morning.
The Honourable Member for West Yellowhead on a Standing Order 40 application on the question of urgency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise on the Standing Order 40, Mr. Speaker, due to the fact that this evening in Edson, in the riding of West Yellowhead, The slow pitch tournament starts with some 230 teams from across Alberta and the Northwest Territories. People in the Kinsman Club in Edson, like Jim Froggatt and John Martini, were the spearheads of this, along with people from the Edson Town Council some 5 years ago, began the process of following the leadership of these two individuals and the Edson Kinsmen. And today will be the beginning of one of the largest events held in the province of Alberta in regards to slow pitch. It has encouraged good family life, good outdoors, and good partnership throughout the total province. And I want to say that the Alberta government certainly has should be rewarded for being behind this project, because they've helped in many ways to make sure that this great event came into being. Of course, I couldn't sit without thanking the Edson Chamber of Commerce, the citizens of the Edson and the area, and the many companies and corporations that helped bring this event into being. I would like the members of the Legislative Assembly to put their full support behind this great event, and it's great to see that Parks and Recreations are being treated in the most effective way. The Kinsmen have built ball diamonds, I believe some 21 brand new ones, sponsored by individuals and corporations, and I would ask the Assembly to support this resolution.
The Assembly agree with the Honourable Member putting that motion? Opposed? Carried. The Honourable Member will move the motion then.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move my motion under Standing Order 40.
Thank you. Having heard the motion by the Honourable Member for West Yellowhead, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Is there a point of order? It's gone. All right. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders for second reading. Bill 45, Honourable Mr. Johnston.